So, I want you to visualize a very specific scene to start us off today.
Okay, set the stage.
It's a gray, kind of overcast morning in Nairobi. We're back in 2016.
Yeah,
And you have this young guy, a first-year university student named Dennis, and his life is, well, it's strictly compartmentalized.
like two different worlds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On one side, he is just buried in economics textbooks. He's looking at supply and demand curves, trying to figure out macro trends. Basically, he's trying to be the quote-unquote serious student that his family expects him to be.
Yeah, the safe path, the path that actually pays the rent.
Right. But then, and this is the interesting part, on the other side, completely hidden from his academic life, almost like a secret identity, he's spending his free time on rollerblades.
Which is quite the pivot from macro trends.
Totally. He is out there in these concrete parking lots teaching kids how to skate. He's sweating, laughing, doing tricks. It's a really classic conflict, right?
It really is the universal dilemma.
Right.
I mean, we see this in so many biographies and case studies. The serious career path versus the passion project.
Yeah.
We are so socially conditioned, especially in formal education systems, to believe that we have to pick a single lane. You are either the economist in the suit or you are the skating coach in the helmet.
You can't be both.
Right. You absolutely cannot be both.
Because if you try to be both, you're seen as unfocused or, worse, just unprofessional.
Precisely. But today's deep dive is going to completely dismantle that binary. We are looking at a fascinating case study that proves not only that you don't have to choose, but that the most powerful innovation actually happens when you refuse to choose.
When you refuse to pick a lane.
Exactly. The innovation happens in the overlaps.
Innovation in the overlaps. I really like that concept.
It's an idea I love because, we often think innovation means inventing something brand new,
Right.
like cold fusion or a flying car.
Them from scratch.
Yeah, but usually it's just taking two existing, seemingly unrelated things like, say, economic statistics and roller skating,
Right.
and smashing them together in a way nobody else has ever thought of to solve a really specific problem.
And we have the absolute perfect story to illustrate this today. We are digging into the journey of Dennis Lumumba, who is an innovator in Kenya, and the incredible, almost mysterious organization that really catalyzed his whole transformation.
The Forgotten Bottom Millions.
Right. Or 4BM for short.
And just to set the stakes here for you listening, 4BM isn't some small localized club. We are talking about a massive digital grassroots movement. It is fundamentally reshaping how young Africans find opportunity.
It really is. So our mission today for this deep dive is to explore how this movement works and how it helped Dennis go from a confused university student to a literal data sports innovator.
That's a huge leap.
It is. But before we get to Dennis's specific story, we really have to understand the engine powering this whole thing. Can we just talk about that name for a second? The Forgotten Bottom Millions. It sounds heavy.
It is intense, for sure. But it is also incredibly descriptive. 4BM is a program based out of the Baraza Media Lab in Nairobi. And their core mission is empowerment. But they go about it in a very specific, very smart way.
How so?
Well, they realized early on that the bottom millions, meaning the youth, who are often just totally left out of the economic conversation because of geography or poverty, they don't need pity. They don't need handouts.
Right.
They need access.
Okay, but access is such a buzzword, right? Everyone in the tech space talks about giving access. How are they actually doing it? Because when we talk about tech solutions, usually you think of a fancy app, a high-bandwidth website, maybe something that requires a paid subscription or a MacBook.
Exactly. And that is exactly where most development aid completely fails.
Yeah.
If you build a platform that requires a high-end laptop and 5G Wi-Fi, you have already excluded the exact people you were trying to help.
You've built a wall before you even started.
Precisely. 4BM didn't do that. They went to where the people already were.
WhatsApp, like just the messaging app.
Just the messaging app.
Wait, isn't WhatsApp mostly used for, I don't know, family group chats
And sharing memes, yeah.
Right. So how do you build a massive economic engine on that?
It is honestly a masterclass in accessibility. Because in many African markets, WhatsApp is the internet. It works on the most basic smartphones. It uses an incredibly low amount of data, and literally everyone knows how to use it.
Oh, that makes sense. You don't have an onboarding process.
Right. You don't need to teach a new user interface. By building their infrastructure purely on WhatsApp groups, they democratized access instantly.
So it literally doesn't matter if you are in downtown Nairobi or a really remote village in a rural county somewhere. If you have a basic cell signal, you are in the loop.
Exactly. And the scale of this loop is just mind-blowing. I was looking at the numbers from our sources, and I actually had to double-check them because they seemed way too high for a WhatsApp-based initiative.
Lay them on us. What are we talking about?
4BM has shared over 380,000 verified opportunities.
380,000.
Yeah.
Just through chats.
Yes. And that constant flow of information has impacted over 1 million members
Wow.
across more than 47 counties. But the key word in all of that isn't just the huge numbers. It's the word verified.
Yeah, let's unpack that. Because, look, anyone can forward a link on WhatsApp. My uncle forwards me suspicious links all the time.
The click here to win a car link.
Exactly, that sort of thing.
And in the job market, especially for young people in emerging economies, scams are rampant. They are everywhere. You see listings like, pay us a registration fee and we'll guarantee you an interview.
Right.
Or submit your government ID for this scholarship, and it's actually just pure data harvesting. It creates this massive trust deficit in the whole system.
It's incredibly predatory. You've got people who are desperate for work, and someone actively tries to take the little bit of money they do have.
Exactly. So 4BM's core value proposition isn't just saying, hey, here is a link to a job. It is trust.
Trust as a service, almost.
Yes. Every single scholarship they post is fully funded, and it is verified. Every remote job is vetted.
Yeah.
No money is asked for. There are no submission fees. They act as this crucial filter against all the noise and the danger.
That is such a game changer. It takes the anxiety out of the job search. Instead of spending half your energy just wondering if you're being scammed, you can spend 100% of your energy actually applying and putting your best foot forward.
And beyond just the jobs, it provides networking. It
Yeah.
provides mentorship. It creates this whole vibe that it is not just a digital job board, it is a movement.
Right.
It is the forgotten bottom millions effectively saying, we are here, we are incredibly talented, and we are rising up together.
It sounds like they are building a completely digital city rather than just a notice board. And I think that brings us perfectly back to our protagonist, Dennis Lumumba, because he basically walked right into the middle of this movement before he even knew what it was.
He did. We need to go back to that gray June morning in 2016.
Let's do it. So Dennis is that econ student we mentioned at the top of the show. He's unsure of his direction. He's got the textbooks, he's got the roller skates, but they exist in two totally different universes.
Right.
And his brother's friend, this guy is a political strategist named Manwar, he gives Dennis a very casual invite to a meetup. He just says, hey, just come through. You'll really like the conversations.
Which, let's be entirely honest, is usually code for come sit in a really boring meeting and listen to people speechify for 3 hours.
Oh, 100%. Like, come see my 50-slide PowerPoint. I'd probably say I was busy doing literally anything else.
Same.
But Dennis goes, and he walks into this room, and he immediately realizes this is definitely not a stiff lecture hall. There is tea, there are bitings, which, by the way, is a fantastic Kenyan term for snacks.
Love that term.
And the energy in the room is just electric.
This is a huge moment of realization for him. Dennis looks around, and he doesn't see people just sitting there complaining about the economy or waiting for the government to swoop in and save them.
Right, no complaining.
He sees developers, entrepreneurs, policymakers, and they aren't just talking theory. The developers are actively building apps to link rural farmers directly to urban markets. The entrepreneurs are figuring out how to solve Nairobi traffic issues in real time.
He realized they were builders, and he had this thought, like, these people are building the Kenya I've always dreamed of. So he joined the 4BM network that very night.
But joining a network is just step one.
Exactly. Joining is easy. Figuring out who you actually are within that network is a completely different story.
That is the ultimate friction point. And I think a lot of people listening right now will deeply relate to this. You can be standing in a room full of highly impressive people and feel like a total imposter. Dennis had a very serious identity crisis.
Totally, because remember, he was living a double life. By day, he is the serious econ guy dealing with spreadsheets. By weekend, he's the guy in the parking lot teaching kids how to skate.
And he felt this immense, crushing pressure to choose between them. He truly thought he had to pick the serious path if he ever wanted to be successful in a room like that.
And this is exactly where the 4BM community intervened. This highlights why a community matters so much more than just a list of information or job links. It wasn't just about posting opportunities. It was about fundamentally reframing mindsets.
Right?
There was this specific meetup where someone asked Dennis a question that completely changed his trajectory.
Do you have the quote? What was the exact question?
Yeah, they asked him, you're passionate about skating and you're strong in data. What if you built a business from that?
It sounds so incredibly simple in hindsight. But at the moment, To him, that must have felt like asking someone to combine oil painting and corporate accounting.
Exactly. It shifted his whole internal narrative. He went from thinking, am I qualified to be a traditional economist, to thinking, how can I contribute using absolutely everything I have?
Yes.
He actually has this great quote about that exact realization. He said, passion without strategy is a hobby. With the right system, it changes lives.
Passion without strategy is a hobby.
That is going on a sticky note on my monitor.
It is brilliant. So he decides to stop choosing. He decides to start combining. And this leads directly to his first big venture, which he called Big Ice.
And we have to look at the timing here. He launches this in September 2020.
Right in the absolute middle of the pandemic.
The whole world is locked down. Kids are stuck indoors, losing their minds. And the statistics at the time were alarming. Dennis saw data showing that 3 in 5 kids were at severe risk for lifestyle diseases like diabetes just due to sudden inactivity.
So he sees a very real health problem. He has the skating skills to get kids moving, but he doesn't have a giant recreational facility. He certainly doesn't have an ice rink.
No, and this is where you see the lean startup approach in action, which is something the 4BM network heavily emphasizes. Do not wait for the massive capital injection. Start with the resources you already have.
Start where you are.
Exactly. So he used empty parking lots, he used plastic traffic cones, he used basic inline skates.
He didn't wait for the perfect conditions. And the impact of just starting was immediate. The source material shares some really incredible, specific stories from this time. Like, there's a girl named Sarah.
Sarah's story is so lovely. When she arrived at Big Ice, she was incredibly shy. She was avoiding eye contact, barely speaking to anyone. But just 6 months of skating later, she is literally leading the warm-ups for the entire group.
Wow.
And her school grades actually improved simply because her overall confidence spiked so much.
Then there's Kevin. He started as a total beginner in a parking lot, became a pro performer, and now he is actively training for ice hockey and mentoring other kids.
It perfectly proves Dennis's underlying philosophy, which is that every trick mastered is proof that limits are a lie.
I love that.
It is not just about learning to balance on skates. It is about physically proving to yourself that you are capable of improving.
But here is where the story takes a massive pivot. It goes from being a really nice community sports project to serious, hard-hitting innovation. Because up to this point, frankly, it sounds like a great nonprofit or a local sports club.
Right, which is fine, but it's not the whole story.
Exactly. Dennis didn't stop there. And this is where the economics background finally crashes back into the picture.
Yes. This is the true deep dive moment for us. Because most people would have stopped at successful skating school. They would have been totally happy with that. But Dennis had mentors from the 4BM space.
People like Waziri, who was a former county minister, and Achi Ojani.
Right. They pushed him. They looked at what he was doing and asked, how can statistical analysis and athlete development actually connect here?
They pushed him to find the overlap. They didn't let him just be a skating coach.
Exactly. And together, they identified this massive data gap in African sports.
Okay, let's drill down on this for a second. This concept of the data gap. What does that actually mean in practice?
Well, think about how professional sports work in the US or in Europe. If you look at the NBA or the English Premier League, or honestly even college-level sports now, every single step an athlete takes is measured.
Right. Heart rate, acceleration.
Exactly. Recovery time, caloric efficiency, sleep quality, decisions on which athletes to recruit or exactly how to train them to peak at the right time are based on incredibly deep analytics.
Right. It's basically the Moneyball concept. You do not guess anymore. You look at the spreadsheet.
Correct. But in many parts of Africa, despite having this immense, truly world-class talent pool, those developmental decisions were still largely being made by feel.
It's raw observation.
Yeah, or by who you knew. It wasn't systematic.
So it was highly inefficient. Generational talent was inevitably slipping through the cracks simply because nobody was objectively measuring it.
Exactly. And without hard data, it's incredibly hard to get financial investment. You can't definitively prove a young athlete's trajectory to a corporate sponsor if you don't have the numbers to back it up. So, to solve this, Dennis builds Athletica.
Athletica. Tell us about it.
It is a software tool that uses data, artificial intelligence, and predictive modeling to create highly personalized training plans for athletes.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So he's taking his economics brain, the understanding of supply and demand, statistical regression, trend analysis, and he is using all of that to analyze the quote-unquote market of the athlete's own body and performance.
It is the absolute ultimate synergy. He uses the network insights from 4BM to identify the passion and the market need, and he uses the hard data to optimize the physical performance.
So he is no longer an economist or a skater.
Right. He is a sports data innovator. He literally created a professional category that did not exist for him before.
I love that so much. It completely turns the original conflict of his dual interests into his biggest competitive advantage. Nobody else could possibly build Athletica because nobody else was an economics major, who also spent their weekends teaching kids how to skate in empty parking lots.
Precisely. The overlap was his superpower. And it really highlights the ongoing role of the broader ecosystem. 4BM wasn't just a place to find a link to a remote job. It acted as an opportunity spotter.
It did. It helped him see the actual gap in the market. And crucially, it supported him when things got incredibly hard. Because we really shouldn't pretend this was a smooth, straight line to success.
No, definitely not. And the sources are very clear on this part. In 2019, before Big Ice really took off and long before Athletica, he was incredibly overwhelmed. Finances were extremely tight. He was trying to balance freelance analytics work with the skating. He almost walked away from all of it.
I think that is the part of the entrepreneur's journey we tend to gloss over way too much, the almost quit moments.
We do. We like the highlight reel.
Right. But the network provided crucial partnerships. It kept him going when he was running on fumes. There is actually this really funny, revealing story in the source material about his very first meetup introduction that I think sums up the culture of 4BM perfectly.
Oh, this is such a great detail. Set the scene.
So, picture Dennis. She is standing in this room full of serious techies, expert coders, and policy wonks. Very serious people discussing national infrastructure and GDP growth.
Intimidating.
Very. And he stands up to introduce himself, probably sweating a bit, and he just stammers out, "I teach skating." He's fully expecting them to judge him, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's expecting them to think, what are you doing here? Go play outside with the kids.
He's expecting the classic parental reaction, like, why aren't you a doctor or a lawyer?
Exactly. But the response from the room was immediate laughter.
But not mocking laughter.
No, not at all. It was warm, inviting laughter. They looked at him and said, "That's amazing. Tell us more about that."
That reaction is so incredibly important because if they had shut him down right there, if they had scoffed at him, Athletica never happens. Big Ice never happens.
It really speaks to their culture of openness. The lesson there is that differences are what fuel innovation.
Yeah.
If every single person in that room was a Python coder, the conversation would be incredibly boring.
They would just talk about code all night.
Exactly. They wouldn't invent anything new outside their bubble.
Yeah.
Having a skater who is also an economist, that is exactly where the magic happens.
It's diversity of thought in action. So let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. We've got 4BM using a simple app like WhatsApp to verify jobs for millions of people. And we've got Dennis using that exact same network to merge the worlds of econ and sports. What does this all mean for us, for the person listening right now who might not be in Nairobi and might not know the first thing about roller skating?
I think the big takeaway here is really about the fundamental nature of innovation itself. We all tend to wait for a massive light bulb moment where we invent something totally unprecedented.
Right.
But Dennis didn't invent skating. And he certainly didn't invent economics.
No, those two things have been around forever.
He innovated simply by finding the intersection of two things he already knew deeply. And critically, he had a community around him, 4BM, that actively supported that fusion. He didn't have to hide one part of himself to please the other part.
And just to remind everyone listening, this isn't some isolated lucky break for one guy. 4BM has impacted over 1 million people. This model of combining a basic digital community with highly verified opportunities absolutely works.
It works because it validates the bottom millions as actual creators, not just passive beneficiaries of aid. It gives them the structural tools to write their own stories.
It stops treating them as a problem to be solved.
Exactly. And it starts treating them as a massive resource waiting to be unlocked.
I think that is a perfect synthesis of the whole source material. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with a bit of a challenge.
Oh, go for it.
We spent all this time talking about Dennis's quote-unquote useless hobby of skating and his serious skill of economics. So if you, the listener, looked closely at your own life right now, what is your useless passion?
Something you do just for fun.
Exactly. Maybe you're a corporate accountant who is absolutely obsessed with gardening.
Or an ER nurse who loves playing retro video games.
Perfect examples. What is your useless passion, and what is your serious skill? Because if you mash them together, what unexpected business or entirely new solution is hiding right there in that overlap?
The overlap you've been ignoring because society told you they just don't go together?
Exactly. The innovation is always in the overlap.
Thanks for jumping into this deep dive with us today.
Keep exploring those overlaps. Catch you next time.